So, hello everybody, welcome to the Scene World broadcast show today at the Film and Games exhibition at the Frankfurt Film Museum. And today we have the topic Demoscene and Demoscene parties. And actually in the interview I have FRaNKy, aka Peter Smets, who is a Demoscener. Hello FRaNKy.
Hey Jörg.
And he's very much known for organizing Demoscene parties like Revision, and also helping at other Demoscene parties like TUM, I think it was. And
yes.
there's one coming up in Cologne in a few days, right?
That's going to be Evoke, yes.
Yeah, and you will be there too, I guess, as an organizer.
I will not be there as an organizer. I will be there for Scene Set, which is something completely different. A Scene Set is like an internet radio station about and for and from the Demoscene.
Okay, we could talk about that later. First,
yes.
Let's start about who you are and how you actually got into the Demoscene and into computing and. Well, I just know it started around 1991, right?
That's when I joined this thing called the Demoscene. Yes, I rolled in. Well, maybe we can step back first and explain what the Demoscene is, because that's
okay,
also
complicated. Sure.
Okay,
let's step back. What's the Demoscene?
Okay, so the Demoscene as such is like a cultural / art collective, groups of people who make art on computers. Now, of course, you say this is nothing unknown. People make lovely videos on YouTube, on Vimeo, on whatever streaming platform you want. But the difference with the Demoscene is that everything runs as an executable, as a program. And it is showing off your skills. You have people who can make very good algorithms in programming. You have people who are very good in making graphics, designing 3D models, designing 3D objects. You have people who are good in making their own music. And this then all gets put together into something called a demo, which is short for demonstration. And what makes a good demo? Well, it's a personal choice. You can perhaps have a cube rotating on the screen and say, wow, that's cool. But then some other guy does two cubes, which is cooler, and a third guy says, well, hey, I can make 2 cubes and they're shiny and I have a star field in the background, or I have like something else moving, or I have some text on the screen at the same time, which is more and better and therefore could be cooler.
So a demo is kind of a demonstration of special effects, of technical possibilities of a computer, like in a row, like in a movie, kind of.
Yeah, well, it is showing off what you can do with your computer. Now, of course, today computers are very strong. They have like big, huge graphics cards, and you have huge amounts of storage and connectivity to everything. So that's one part where you have the show whatever you want on the hardware which is available. But you also have the old school stuff, which is making these things on your since last week 30-year-old Amiga, or your 35-year-old Commodore 64, or your 35-year-old Nintendo NES console, etc. So Demoscene is not limited to just PCs or Macs. It's any platform in general. If you can program for it, if you can make code for it, then yes, then you can make a demo for it. So this goes from PCs to Game Boys to mobile phones to I have seen demos for ATM cash machines which are not released. So well, okay, you should release it.
Great. So let's talk a bit actually, because we step back to explain what demos are. So how did you actually join the scene? I remember that demos actually started as a kind of intro for game cracks.
Well, yes. In the 80s on your Commodore 64, you would have copied games, which were of course not really legal, but well, those were the 80s. And in front of those games, you would show off. Say, Jörg, I removed the copy protection from this game. Now, you would probably already be smart enough that it would not be a good idea to put your real name in there. So you would choose a nickname, and you would say, "Well, I nickname removed the copy protection of this game. I am cooler and therefore better than you." Don't forget that in that period, most of those crackers were in their late teens, early 20s, and well, strange things happened in the 80s. So it was all about, well, I am better than you, and you would then announce it. You would have a logo and the music and some text, and you would also make this text nice to look at. It would change color, it would bounce, you would have the logo change color, you would have things move left and right on the screen to make it more interesting. But it still was all in front of a game, so that was. It would introduce the game, therefore it was intros, and the games were cracked, so therefore there are crack intros or crack throws. And bit by bit, these small intros became standalone. You would have them released without the game following them, and people would start putting 3 or 4 of them together in what would be called a multi-part demo, and you would have to press space between the different parts because they were not connected on their own. And this then multi-part intros went into something called mega demos, which went into big one disc demos, which would continue with disc loaders and end up really big multiple disc sides. On came the hard disk, and no more floppy disks, more file size, more everything, and it led a life on its own. And somewhere in the early 90s, it kind of disconnected from the cracking scene, and the demo scene became a part on its own. Yes, of course, there are links. You today will still have demo sceners who will make music and graphics for what is today called, and I hate the word, keygens. But yes, there is an overlap. But it's in the last 20 years, it's more or less separated.
And how did you actually start to become a part of that culture?
I was watching those things on my C64 in the 80s, and I would just for fun, I'd make my own crack intros in BASIC and later some assembler, but I wasn't really good at it, so didn't really release anything. But still, you would also find in those crack intros, you would find messages like, "Hey, contact us so we can trade stuff. You will send floppy disks with demos and intros to each other," and that's what I did. I was mail trading, or like putting floppy disks in an envelope and shipping it to strange countries such as Turkey and Finland. Remember, this is 92. And 2 weeks later, you would get a package back with new demos and new intros on it, which you could then you would then copy onto other disks, which you would send out again. And it's like a very slow point-to-point network with the postal service and floppy disks.
Great. So, and then you started to become a visitor of those parties, I guess.
Yeah, I think actually pretty soon. Some of my first contacts in Belgium, they went to an event called, it was in December 91, so only a few months after I started to mail trade. I think it was the Mirage Copy Party, then still called a Copy Party, in 91. And then I had the luck that I went to this local computer club where I would copy my games as well, of course. And they organized a demo party in my hometown Leuven back then in 92, which is the TRSI Easter Conference. and that's how I started going to those parties, and then you really start to no longer care about the games, but you start to care about all the specific intros and demos which are released there and which are copied there, and that's how you roll into things.
And then you were interested in how those things went, and then you became an organizer or something. I think
yes.
there was something in between, right?
Yeah, well, it's in between. You start going to parties, and then you will find out that these people they need help. So they will need somebody to sell the beers, sell the drinks, be at the entrance to see that you have paid, to cash in the money, to set up tables and chairs. And I ended up helping out for some years, and then with time evolving, so into the later 90s, you would have the 3D age come on the PC with the 3D cards and everything, and C64 and Amiga would slow down, but well, people were still releasing stuff for it, but there was nobody there to run these competitions, because at a demo party, when you have an intro or a demo, you show it on a competition on a large projection screen with a large audio system, and it has to be presented nicely because people work really hard on those things, and it deserves to be shown nicely. And that was what I ended up doing, to prepare all those demos to be shown on the big screen at those events. And I started out helping out with the old school stuff, because that was what I was mostly interested in.
So Demoscene parties are like a gathering of all those creative-minded people that try to produce demos for the audience, and to show what
because
computers can, and to show off their skill set. Yes,
where now today, of course, you can just upload a video to YouTube and have instant few hundred, few thousand views. In the 90s, of course, there was internet, but not as we know it today. So you would go to gatherings. You could, of course, send messages on bulletin board systems, or you could have a slow internet with IRC chat, but you would still not be able to meet each other. And those gatherings were your meetings, where you would meet the people who you traded paper letters with, or who you shared messages with on the BBSs. You would actually meet them in person there, and a social gathering is actually correct. And at the same time, of course, you would then show off what you have been working on in the last 3, 6, or 12 months in the demos.
That's quite interesting, because most people actually just know what a LAN party is. But I guess a LAN party is something totally different, because LAN parties are more like crazy people sitting behind computers, trying to win a game or something. And Demoscene parties is more about the socializing.
Oh, you have crazy people at demo parties too. Of course, there are different groups. But yes, now you can compare a demo party to a LAN party, as it is a big hall with tables and chairs, and it's filled with computers. Whereas a LAN party is usually silent, because everybody's playing with their headphones on and don't want to be disturbed, because they want to kill the other team. A demo party is usually quite loud. You have people bring in speakers, extra lights. There will be the competitions on the big screen are pretty loud as well. You will have today you will have live acts and DJs who will play in the evenings, and we'll just have. It'll go on until the early hours of the morning.
And earplugs for the night.
Earplugs for the night, or as we have all become very old, there is now a term called hotel scening, where you go to the party during the day, and once you're tired, you go to your hotel to sleep, and no longer sleep inside the party hall.
But you are hardcore, you are old school, you still sleep at the sleeping area.
No, since I have been working and could afford it, I have been hotel scening.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Ask a technical guys. Can we show some photos? Is that actually possible, Sebastian? Can we actually show some photos?
So I think that the photos we selected are build-up photos. So it actually shows what it looks like at a demo party before it happens. So it's an empty hall.
Yeah, well, it's actually what we should talk about. I mean, now we talked about Demoscene parts, what they are, and now we are looking at a large hole and a big screen.
Exactly. So this is a build-up picture from Revision, which is the current Demoscene only, biggest Demoscene only event in the world. It's held every year in Saarbrücken at Easter. And if you can go back to the first picture, it'll show you the empty hall and also how big the big screen is.
Oh, yes.
It is, and as you can see in the distance, that there is like a little person standing in front of it. To give you an idea, I think this one is 7 to 8 meters high.
Wow.
And it's widescreen, so to give you a dimension of it. And of course, this entire hall will be filled with tables, and the curtains will close, so it will be dark with light effects. But that is how big the big screen is.
And that's actually the E-Werk, right?
That's the
E-Werk. Yeah.
Yes. And this is what it looks like at the end. This is the cleanup. So we just missed the entire party from start to finish, and this is cleaning up with all the tables stacked together and etc. This picture is from another demo party in Helsinki, Assembly, which is also running this weekend, by the way. Assembly is more of a LAN party combined with a demo party, so you have lots of gamers. And Assembly has their own TV setup. This is Assembly TV, and this was last year's studio.
Wow, this is great.
I also think that this year Assembly is broadcasting the demo compos on Yle, which is the national broadcasting corporation of Finland. And they are broadcasting the demo compos on national TV this year, which is the first, which is really cool.
Great.
So
if subculture is becoming public awareness.
Well, yes, we are getting after all these years. Of course, it's a relation that's been going on for quite a long time, and I know that the guys from Assembly have been talking very long to get it actually out on the public TV to get awareness out. We're doing the same with Revision, trying to get for instance, the University of Saarbrücken to assist us, and also get the people from university involved, which is a continuous work in progress, but we are getting there.
Great. Well, I also saw it's even mentioned in public tech media that those parties are being held. So it's really great. So what we see here is I see the official T-shirt of the Revision.
Those are not T-shirts. Those are organizer hoodies. We have them made for the organizers, for the crew this year, because Easter was pretty early and it was cold, so we have like little swag exclusive to us. But again, in the background you see the empty hall with you will see in the top center you will see all the flight cases of equipment. It's actually an entire 40 feet truck which is completely full with audio gear and video gear, because at the same time when we hold the party, we run everything in full HD. We have all digital workflow from start to finish. We have our own TV station, we have our own radio station with scene set, and that's all built up from scratch inside an empty hall.
Yeah, we should also mention that besides sitting together and stuff, you also have special programs on Revision, for example. I guess you have that Easter campfire, if I remember correctly.
Well, there always is it's there's a big outside area for a revision, and in it we have a bonfire, just a fire which is outside. It's kind of a cultural thing at the Easter parties where you have a large fire outside where you can sit around and socialize until forever, until we kick you out.
And you also have seminars.
Yes,
area.
revision and assembly for the matter, and I think also Evoke has one this weekend. We have seminars. They can go from everything. Mostly it can be, for instance, if you develop a new development tool to make a demo or to make it easier, then you can present this to other people and say, okay, this is my new tool. This is how it works. I am sharing this with you. You can download it here, or I have this new project, or I have this idea that I'm working on, and I am presenting this. So that's also very serious Demoscene stuff. You can have sessions on how to program on old consoles. There have been, let me see, in the last 2 years there have been sessions at Revision on how to program for the Atari VCS 2600 console. For instance, and then the completely fun stuff, which is because I am not a developer, so I cannot explain how to make nice cubes and everything, but I can explain about Belgian beers. So I have been doing introductions to Belgian beers for the last 2 years at Revision to a great success, I have heard, because they want me back for next year.
One of those earlier revisions, I remember that because I was there. You also did a seminar about the copy protection of Pac-Man and the different versions of Pac-Man.
Yeah, there was also, well, it's sharing information, and one of my actual real life businesses is buying and selling arcade games and pinballs, and I made a presentation on the history on copy protection of those things on arcade games, and that was one of the presentations I held at Revision and also at Assembly, for instance.
And on those Demoscene parties, we should also mention that there are still records that are going to be broken, or at least new technology being developed. Like for in the C64 there was something called New Fly, which was a new technique by a famous graphician called DK from Crest to develop a new method of displaying and creating pictures on a C64.
Yeah, well, although say the era of world records is kind of behind us, because in the 90s you would have the most amount of cubes on the screen, the most amount of scrollers, which are text which go from left to right or up and down on the screen, the most points and dots made into a ball or a cube on the screen. So those were the world record days. Today this is no longer the case. And then with mentioning Newfly, for instance, is it's kind of a jump to a different topic, but you have your hardware which is fixed. My C64 is equal to your C64 is equal to a C64 that you can get on eBay anywhere in the world. They are all more or less the same. Meaning that today in your PC you can have different graphics cards, you can have different sound cards. C64s are all the same. So you have a fixed base to work on, and then you can improve on it. The hardware is fixed, but with software tricks you can improve it. So you can play sampled music on a C64. You can have the basic resolution, you can improve it. You can have more colors on the screen at the same time. You can have a higher resolution, you can have more moving things, and Newfly is one of those graphics modes which has been developed in the last year, partly by DK, for instance, to just get as much out of a basic C64 as you can.
Great. So let's talk a bit about how do you actually organize those parties, things from the technical standpoint. Let's say the compo machines. Are they really playing real time when I'm behind the big wall and watching them?
I can tell you for the bigger parties such as Revision and also Assembly, for instance, they are recorded. the old school stuff. So at Revision, PC demos and intros are done live. Everything else is recorded. Why? Well, old hardware breaks down. We would often have to run a demo on a C64 or an Amiga a few times before it actually runs the way we want it. And then, of course, this is not happening on the big screen, so you want everything to go as smoothly as possible. And therefore, we record everything. We record everything from real machines unless we really, really cannot do it. And I think for now, over the last 4 or 5 years at Revision, we maybe have used an emulator 2 or 3 times. I think once was for Mega Drive and maybe some other strange console that we couldn't get through. And anyway, but yes, at Revision we really want to run everything from the real hardware, and that is then recorded onto uncompressed digital video files, which is then played back at the Beam team. The Beam team is, well, it beams out onto the big screen. They're the audio and video guys. They play it back at the exact frame rate, which is usually 50 hertz or 60 hertz, at the proper resolution. Of course, upscaled to the full HD resolution of the beamer, but we do get it from the original hardware.
So maybe we should show something. I handed over a video earlier about an intro.
I think that. I think there are a few. We have a crack intro from the 80s. And then we have 2 demos from Revision, which is an old school demo on C64, and I think a PC intro.
Let's see if we can make that work.
What do you want to look at?
Let's go for the C64 demo, which is which I think won the old school competition at Revision this year.
Okay, let's start.
Hello.
Hi there.
Again. So this was the demo winner of Revision this Easter.
Yes, so this was the winner of the old school competition at Revision. So old school is more or less everything in 16-bit. It's not exactly like that, but that's where you can look at it. So it's everything from C64 up to Super Nintendo consoles, Atari 8-bit machines, everything like that. And this was done C64 demo. And what you actually see here is more or less 30 years of R&D into one demo. If you would have if you would take a C64 from 1983, this would run, and the people from Commodore would not believe you because they would have no idea that this was possible on their machine. So this is a C64 you can take out of the box. It's not without extra memory or a faster CPU or faster graphics. It's just things that were discovered over 30 years on how to do them.
Which is actually true. I actually had an interview with Yash Terakura, who was the lead engineer of Commodore Japan, and he confirmed to me that they didn't know back in the time when he developed the machine together with his team that this would be possible. But this is possible thanks to very efficient programming and illegal opcodes and commands and tricks that weren't known until somebody discovered it.
Indeed. So as you said with programming, it's everything comes down to timing. Because in like a C64, everything is slow and shared. So if you set a number in a special location in memory at a specific time, something cool might happen, and that's thing that you can abuse. For instance, as we have seen in the demo, there is something called border sprites. If you can imagine it, a Commodore 64 has a screen in the middle, but around it is a big block that's called the border, and you can give it a color, and that's it. Commodore said, well, okay, you can give it a color and that's it, play with it. But you cannot put any text there, you cannot put anything moving there, you cannot put an animation there. That's simply not possible. But you can open the border if at the right time you set the right number in the right memory location, and people found out, hey, we can cheat. And suddenly these things become accessible, and that's one of the tricks. Same for the extra colors. If you follow the Commodore guidelines, a screen is built up of lines. And every 8th line, the graphics chip would read, okay, which colors do I need for the next 8 lines? And that is what you were stuck with. Although if you set the correct number in the correct memory location at the correct time, you can tell the graphics chip to reread the color information every scan line, so every horizontal line. And that's how you can cheat with more colors. You can, for instance, have a fixed resolution, but you can more or less double it. If you show 2 pictures at the same time, so one after the other, so you can show 25 pictures a second. If you flip them really fast, it's still acceptable, but you have a higher resolution, because suddenly you can have 2 times as much colors and points on or pixels on your screen at the same time. And this,
which I think is called interlace, kind of, right?
That's interlacing, for instance, yes. And then you can add sprites which are like movable objects on top of that for extra colors and in various resolution. It's all cheating. And I think you can download them for free now. You have the Mind Candy DVDs. And on it are commentary tracks of made by the guys who made all the demos. They have volume 1 is PC, volume 2 is C64, and volume 3 is PC again. If you look at the first and the second DVD, they have a lot of old school info on there, and people in the commentary track actually more or less explain how the cheats work. That's really interesting.
Yes, so what's the most difficult thing to make sure that those demos work? I think, for example, for the C64, to go back to the sound and movie topic, you have the problem that there are different sound shapes, for example. An old one and a new one, and the old one would play digital samples and the new one wouldn't. So how do you actually handle those differences in those models?
For C64, you would have to specify this demo, this music track needs an old SID. SID is the name of the sound chip. Needs old SID or new SID, and you specify it. If you don't specify, we will choose for you whatever we think sounds best.
Great. And you mentioned earlier that was this kind of a problem sometimes to get the hardware connected to the beamer and to even get a signal.
First of all the hardware is 20-30 years old, which is not really new. Secondly, these machines were built to be cheap, meaning that Commodore did, if Commodore or Atari or Sega on the Master Systems, for instance, if they could save $1 per device in getting cheaper hardware for the video output, then that's what they would use. So the signal which comes out of these consoles is really crappy. Of course, your analog CRT TV doesn't care. It'll just display it. But now today everything is digital, and digital encoders, as we are using now with all the Skype and video setup and Twitch, they expect a nice steady stream of ones and zeros to display things. And well, old computers don't output a nice stream, so we have to stabilize it. So if we can have the picture back, please, which was the last display, the entire tower of equipment. That is what we use at Revision to record Commodore 64 material. So what you have the screen on top, which is just to monitor what we actually see. Below that is a Sony scan converter. It's a Sony DSC 1024. They have been out of production for years, but they are extremely useful to us. Why? They will take most of any crap signal in video and they will stabilize it. Of course, you say, well, a console outputs like nice 50 hertz console, half screens per second for a stable image. It is not. Your Commodore 64 will output 49.5 or 50.2 frames a second, and your digital machinery doesn't really like that. So you need to stabilize it to a steady 50 hertz. So we use the Sonys to get any video signal from a Mega Drive Master System, Ataris, Commodores, to a VGA resolution 640 by 480, and this is then upscaled by the boxes below into an HD signal. I forgot the names of the equipment. Anyway, it's not important. So we then take that VGA and upscale it to 720p, which is then recorded onto hard disks, and then these hard disks are played back at the beam team onto the big screen. And in the meantime, because everything in the demo is synced with audio, we also need to run the audio through these boxes to keep everything in sync, because if your video has delay because it's processed, your audio needs to be delayed as well. And this goes through this entire heap of cable to get it running.
So very complex stuff.
Yes, actually, and I've talked about this setup with some guys from the Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland, who do the European speedrunning championships, and they use more or less the same setup for their broadcasts as well, to get all the old consoles out on the internet today. So I'm pretty sure now that we have a good setup, and maybe some kind of a scoop or nice news that by pure luck we found a company in England who was selling a bunch of these Sony scan converters. So actually last week we bought two. Usually we rent them, but they were becoming hard to rent. So now we have found a couple of them, and we have bought two of them for revision to add to our own equipment stash, so that we're sure that we can continue to record these old school devices properly.
Yeah, well, I guess also the problem in those big parties is to make internet available for everybody and to actually gather the money and so on for those events, right?
Well, yeah, you cannot do this without sponsorship these days. Your event hall for revision will cost you thousands of euros, and with more or less 900, 1,000 visitors at the entrance fee, it's not. It will. I'm not in the financial info, but you will more or less cover about half of your cost. So yes, you need sponsors to help you, and we are lucky that with revision we have some really good corporate friends who help us out. I think both. The last years we've had a lot of help from DICE and also from Viprinet, for instance, who have been helping us out a lot financially and logistically to get everything running, and also lots of smaller partners, of course, because we need them.
Yeah, I saw you even had like companies from the video game business that actually were sponsors too. So,
but yes, you have, for instance, DICE, who actually started out as a company by Demosceners. DICE, or Digital Illusions, are the guys who made the Pinball Dreams and Pinball Fantasies games on the Amiga in the 90s, and those were actually Swedish Demosceners who said, "Well, let's make a game and start a company."
So a lot of nowadays famous video game developers started out as Demosceners.
Well, some, yes. You will have, and you will still have a lot of Demosceners actually work in the video game industry today. They have done so in the past. They will do so now. Why? It's kind of a playground. You have demo coders who, for a living, will create menu systems for Wii games or PlayStation games, and when they are at home, well, they like to code, and then then instead of menu systems, they code shiny things which fly around and make demos.
So actually, you can make a career out of your creativity, of those childhood experience.
Well, yes, and not even that. As I myself made a career out of organizing. I organized demo parties. In real life, I organize huge IT data centers. So it's organizing.
Wow.
So yes, there is some overlap.
Okay, so now let's talk a bit about the difference between America and European, or Canadian and America and European Demoscene parties, because I think that's quite a difference. You mentioned that the signal was pretty crude in those early video game systems, in the C64 and Amiga and so on, but that was actually because you had 50 and 60 hertz that would be bound to the signal that a TV would offer, so people could connect it to the TV back in their homes, because in the 80s you didn't really have monitors.
no, of course. You could get a specific monitor, but you would initially just hook it up to the living room TV and play your games.
Yeah, it was a lot cheaper than dedicated monitors.
Yes.
So what I wanted to explain here is actually that because of this you have like 60 hertz systems and 50 hertz systems.
Yeah.
So that means that the user group, the scene of those machines,
there was a split. Yes, there was a split in say the American and the European scene. Why? Well, the Americans use NTSC TV signal, while Europe uses PAL. It's a difference in resolution and timing to make it something complicated really simple. Well, really short to explain. So yes, on C64, this was an actual split. You would have a different video chip in an American than in a European C64, and things would actually the American one would run I think a bit faster than the European one because it was a slightly lower resolution, so the CPU would have more time to calculate stuff than the European one. So that's the difference. Now, once you get to the more 16-bit machines like the Amiga, you could actually trick your Amiga to boot into European PAL mode instead of NTSC, which is a tool which I think Truck, one of the American guys who's been around since well forever, explained me once that they had an application called BPD, which is short for boot PAL, damn it. And then they would just run their Amigas in the PAL resolution, and they would put their Amiga into European mode, so to speak. So they would do everything at the proper speed and the proper resolution for that.
So that means that the user group is divided by those two groups. And what does it mean for the demo scene?
Today, nothing anymore. Once you get onto PC with VGA, the difference between PAL and NTSC no longer exists. So you are purely talking 80s and the first half of the 90s with your C64, your Ataris, and your Amigas. Today, this split between video frequencies and resolutions no longer exists. What does exist, however, is kind of mentality is a bad word, but how people see demos. Whereas in Europe, it's of course watching demos, but also creating. While in the States, most the demo parties I have visited are usually about watching demos. Was it Pittsburgh? You have the Carnegie Mellon University. They have a demo party called Demo Splash, and that's about watching demos. It's in a big auditorium, and they run all the demos from the real hardware. But it's about watching demos, and the people who run the demos will explain the technicalities and explain the nice things. But it's not really as such about creating stuff. Of course, American demo sceners do create stuff. There have been a lot of nice things coming from the US, but it's presented at European parties. So you would have demos presented at Revision, like the IBM PC original 8080 demo from the US guys, who more than deservedly won. You have the guys from the Carnegie Mellon Club. They did things on Vectrex. They made their own hardware on Apple Lisas and presented that at, I think, Assembly a couple of years ago. So yes, there is some creating, but what they create is then presented at European demo parties. One exception there would be Ad Party in Boston, which is more like a European feel to it, where it's actually socializing and creating. Of course, it's also watching, but when you look at the competition level, and the submitted entries. I think if you want to get introduced to the demo scene in the US, check out a local party. If you want to find out what it feels like to go to like a European demo party and come pretty close, go to Ad Party. It's in Boston every year. And if you really like that, then save up some money and at Easter and fly to Germany and come to Revision.
That's actually quite interesting because the D64 scene and the demo scene in America, I had the impression that it was also growing out of user group meetings, in a way. I remember that famous coder for the Commodore 64, Jim Batterfield, who actually also did like tutorial videos on programming C64 and so on. He was also a member of those user groups before he died, unfortunately, some years ago.
Could be. I'm actually not a historian on the US demo scene, so I can't tell.
You have just been a visitor to some. So
yes, I have visited Ad Party and Demo Splash in the recent years. So I think in the last 4 years, I've been to, I think, 3 Ad Parties and 1 Demo Splash, or 2 Ad Parties. I don't even recall anymore.
It's interesting because I know as a visitor, if I visit a demo scene party, I meet my friends that I usually just speak to over the internet, over Skype like we do now, or over the phone or email. And I never really noticed any problems in the backgrounds. But I was once spoken to another organizer from the from another party last year. Ghetto party it was, yeah, ghetto scene party.
Yeah,
he
ghetto
said
scene.
There is a lot of trouble going on in the background, but as long as we cover it good, nobody of the visitors sees it, so it's great.
Oh, of course, it's behind the scenes. It's always total panic. You will have things break down. You will have demos which do not run. You will have, by accident, uploading the wrong files. You will have internet links which can act up. You could have network switches which suddenly say, "Well, I'm quitting." But no, I think that when the visitors don't notice, we're doing a pretty good job. And of course, it's all hectic. I think that looking back at Revision this year, I think I was able to socialize for maybe 10 minutes over the entire 72 hours of the entire party.
Yeah, you are always running around. I noticed that when I'm at a party and you are part of the organizing team, you're always running around.
Yes.
So what is, by all those stress things, the best thing for you? Why do you say every year I will be part of the organizing team again, despite those troubles?
Well, first of all, there are like different mood swings you go through. So say the 4 weeks after Revision, we all say we're never doing this again. This was the last time. Everything was so bad. We were so angry at everybody. We all quit. Those are the first 4 weeks, and then slowly we come back and say, well, yeah, no, it's just too much fun. We do it again, and it's, I don't know. You just go back and say, well, okay, well, I'll do it 1 more year, and then we'll see what happens. And then you do it another, and in the end, you're, well, not stuck with it, but you'll keep on doing it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I remember when I was at the last, I think it was the last breakpoint, yeah, it was not sure that there would be another party because you announced it like this was the final one.
Yes.
So what happened that in the year after I had to go to Saarbrücken for the party?
Well, there was the full story can be found online on SceneSet somewhere. But in in short, we said, okay, this is going to be the last breakpoint. We have done 7 or 8, or well, enough of them. We want something else, and we decided, well, okay, no, this is the last breakpoint. And then you would look around. Okay, are there any other teams who can handle an Easter party? And then D Fox, who lives in Saarbrücken, said, well, okay, yeah, I'll gather a team around me and go from there. And many people from Breakpoint organizing joined. Many of them didn't, and were recruited from other parties. And we got a team together. I think now Revision runs at like close to 50, 40 organizers, going from the info desk who sells you the drinks, to the network team, to the competition team, to the guys who run the seminars, etc.
Mm-hmm. So we spoke about the creativity part of the scene and about the intros and how this all started with games intros. So maybe we should look at one entry from the intro competition.
Okay, yeah.
We had some example there too.
Yes. Now, as you say, well, we've talked about demos and that they're big and that it's unlimited size, and then there are no limits. You can do whatever you want. If you have a big MP3 file of 10 megabytes, you can just play it for the music. So to make things interesting and more difficult again, you get to something called size coding, and you will give yourself a limitation. Limitation in this case would be the file size of the program you are running. So in this one, which we selected, is a 64K, I believe it is. So your entire demo can only be 64 kilobytes in file size. So all your graphics, programming, music, everything has to be in that file. Of course, you can expand it in memory, which of course you do, else you wouldn't be able to run it. But the file you click and start can only be 64K. You also have limitations for 8 kilobyte, 4 kilobyte, and 1 kilobyte, for instance, to make the size limit even smaller and also the challenge even bigger to get something nice on the screen.
So what do we have that we could show right now?
I think there is one of the Revision 64K intros from this year is an intro by Mercury, which is the name of the group.
Let's play it.
Okay.
So welcome back, people. That was a very nice intro.
And this was 64K. So I think if you look at what 64K is, I think if you today open a Word document and save it empty, it's bigger than that. So to give you an idea, also we looked at the Commodore 64 intro earlier on. This PC intro is actually smaller in size than the Commodore 64 demo that you saw. While it has like higher resolution graphics, it has better and more music in it. Well, better, it has different music in it. So just to give you an idea on the technical difficulties which go into creating all of this.
So you would say that even an iPhone game is bigger than a smartphone game is bigger.
Easy. If I download on my cell phone, which is Android, but iOS will be the same. The smallest application just to like display the weather, it's going to be 15 megabytes in size. While this is 64 kilobytes. You can have gazillions of these files on a default USB stick. When you start to look at all the size coding, and then 64 kilobyte intros are in the world seen as easy. You have 8K is interesting, 4K is where the real thing is, and then 1 kilobyte, so 1024 ones and zeros, that's it. To create like images, music, everything together. And people do it. So I think now this weekend you have an assembly demo party in Helsinki. They have a special 1 kilobyte intro or demo compo, which is getting better and better every year, and they stream out through Assembly TV. So certainly check that out. And then Evoke will have, I think, normal intro compos. I'm not really familiar with the Evoke competitions. I'm sorry. But they also have size coding.
And you said at the beginning you are there for SceneSat, actually.
Yes, SceneSat is an internet radio station, scenesat.com, and we play Demoscene music. And when there are events, we are there to broadcast the competitions, to have interviews with people. We just talk and chat and yabber and allow people to be there on site. We also have a video stream available when we can. Not for Evoke, it will be audio only. I do think that Evoke have their own video stream, but we are not doing it with SceneSat. But for other parties, like say Revision, we also, well, SceneSat also helps with the video part.
Great. So you won't be an organizer this time. You will be there to, well, to be as kind of press.
I will be at Evoke this weekend. I will be organizing differently. I won't be running things from the party. I won't be running the competitions, but I will sit there in my makeshift radio studio, commenting on the party, talking about the party with people who walk by. And who I sometimes hijack for, okay, I need you 30 minutes to talk with me about something on the radio.
You should send me photos. That sounds really exciting to me.
Well, come to Evoke and.
Unfortunately, I will already be busy with Gamescom next week, so I'm preparing for that. But maybe next year. If it won't be your last SceneSat. Well,
hopefully not. No. So no, it is. Evoke is in Köln, Köln Kalk. So if you're around in Germany, come and say hi. An assembly is at Messukeskus in Finland, so Helsinki. Also, it's not sold out. Well, so you can just walk in and come and look at the competitions. There are websites everywhere, and your favorite search engine will point you to them for the timing and the schedule. And yes, I will do the radio things at Evoke with SceneSet, and then mostly Saturday afternoon and evening. We are at the same time broadcasting things from Assembly, where Sir Garbage Truck or Truck is handling things, and we'll have to cooperate and jump up and down a bit. But luckily, there isn't that much of an interference between the different competitions at both parties, so I think we'll probably manage.
What is the URL of the SceneSet thing and the
SceneSet is sceneset.com. SCNE-set.com. Evoke, I have to look in a browser. I think it's evoke.eu, but if you look for Evoke demo party in your favorite search engine, you will pick it up. And Assembly is assembly.org, org. And that's happening.
Any place where people can check your stuff?
Mostly not. No. I would say go to SceneSet for all broadcasts. Go to Revision for the seminars on the arcade games, on the Belgian beer, on playing pinball, because that's also one of them. You can also find those on the Assembly seminar website, for instance. So it's a bit distributed on the internet.
So you will be all around on Demoscene parties?
Yes, and I really try to be at Demoscene parties where I am not an organizer, because then I can actually talk to people.
Wow. Okay. So I would say thanks for taking the time, FRaNKy.
All right, pleasure.
That was all the questions I had for now.
Okay, lovely.
Is there anything you would like to add, or anybody you want to greet?
Not specifically. I think I have name dropped everything and everyone I needed to name drop. So I think I succeeded in that.
Great, great. So thanks for taking the time, FRaNKy.
Okay.
And we will stay in touch, and I will definitely make sure to check out on the weekend SceneSet to hear your radio station thing.
Okay. Lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
pleasure. Bye.
Okay, so thanks for watching, everybody. And in the 4 weeks, in the last Wednesday of August, we will actually have the Tron guy here as a guest on Twitch. So the guy who actually was one of the first internet celebrities that turned into real celebrity and made his own Tron custom out of the movie. So check it out in 4 weeks. And if you want to speak to me personally, next week at the Gamescom in Cologne, I will have a booth there for Scene World magazine, and there you can check out the magazine and watch more if you like. And we have more interviews, and also our last Twitch show which was with Chris Hulsbeck, the famous video game composer. You can check that out all at sceneworld.org. Thank you. Bye.